Okay, we're back, and the next thing we're going to do, let's actually just add in, let's add in a little navigation so we can easily add an album here. So in this video, what we're going to work on is user registration. But let me just add in a quick, actually, let's just do this. Whoops. There we are. Okay, so we're at our album details page. Let's put in a quick album. Or two. All right. Okay, we got at least a couple albums in here. So one of the things that's typical for websites is that you'll actually set them up so that people log in. I mean, most websites that you go to, if you go to, I'm trying to think here, even Facebook, first thing you're greeted with is a sign in or sign up type of a page. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to create a registration page for people, and we're going to store their registered email and password in our database. So let's get that set up. Now the first thing we need to do is on the database side, I'm in Workbench here, we need to create a table that will hold our users. And so I've prepped the script here for us. It's called, you can read it. It says create table users. It's going to have two columns. One's the email address, which I said could be up to 100 characters. It cannot be null, and it will be our primary key, which means no two users can register with the exact same email address. And then the other thing we set up is a password field, and I said that can hold up to 255 characters. Now the reason that I made it so big is that with encryption, you could store passwords up to 255 characters. I think the standard ones we're going to work with today have about 60, but let's create this for the future. All right, so I'm going to just run that in, and if I want to see my table, I can see there's no data in it, or I could say describe users, and I can see here it's got two fields, their data type, where they're allowed to be null. This one's a primary key. So I'm all set. So let's create a registration page. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to right click, say new PHP file, and I'm going to call it registration. I'll add that to GitHub. All right, so let's call this user registration. And here in the body, we can we'll do similar to the way we styled the other ones. So we're going to do a main, and we'll say class equals container. Okay, now the other thing we want to do is we want to start using our CSS files that we've already put in the other pages. So I'm just going to copy those and paste them up here in the head. Okay, and similarly, just in case we need them, let's put in our jQuery JavaScript down here at the bottom. Okay, so our header is complete. Our now let's just work on the body of our code. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up just a little message. So div class will be an alert box, alert info, and we're going to give it an ID because later on we're going to actually change the message in here. So we want to be able to do that. And so here I'm going to say, please create a new user. Hit save. So right away, if we go to our music library registration page, oh, and this is what it looks like, although I don't need the echo. That's right, I don't, because we're not using PHP yet. Hit save. There we go. So this looks nice. We've got the correct little title up here. We've got a nice header, and then we've got some information for our user, and it's nicely color coded in a nice blue. Now later, when this displays errors, we're going to change the color of this to be red. We're going to take advantage of some of the Bootstrap classes for that. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to have a form to put in our username, and we're going to have two password fields. The first password field is first time they read it, and then we have a confirm password field. And if we go to, we were looking at examples a moment ago, Facebook here. Oh, they only use one, interesting. Okay. Well, typically you would have two. All right. And that's just because if anyone accidentally types their password incorrectly the first time, basically they would have to do like a password reset in order to reset it, which can be a pain. It's better off to just make sure that they know exactly what they've typed in the first time. So let's set up a form. It's going to look just like a lot of the other forms we've already done. Okay, so there's a start and end of our form, and we're going to say method equals post, and the action in this case is going to go to the save registration. So let's do save registration.php. Okay, and for our first field set, let's use a class of form group. And our label is for equals email. Put a little star, whoops. Put a little star in there, just to show that it's a required field. We'll say it's required. And the nice thing is, we can say type equals email. Oops. As well. And let's put in a placeholder equal to email at email.com. Okay. Hit save. And if I want to look at how my form's coming along, it looks like that. Nothing too fancy so far. Okay, and we'll do a similar field for the password. Now in this case, the type is not an email. We can put in patterns, like what are acceptable characters here. So we can say pattern equals, and then in here we can put in what's acceptable. These are the basic regex type fields. And if you want to look that up, you can look up regex PHP you'll find lots of examples here in terms of how to set up the regular expressions and match and things like that. So the goal of this video is not to get into any of that. I'm gonna hit save. Okay. Whoops. Oh, that didn't work out quite so well. We've got this placeholder came through here. So let's update that. Let's add in a password. Hit update. Now our columns aren't looking so aligned right now, so let's take advantage of, again, some of the built-in styles that we can do with Bootstrap. So let's just say class equals, and here I can say, let's just do column 1. And we'll do the same thing up here for our label. Save. Refresh. There, it's starting to look a little bit better. And then we'll do the same thing for, for our other password field. This time, instead of saying password in here, I'm going to call this box confirm. And the naming of this is important because we're going to build some JavaScript in a minute that will refer to password and confirm fields. And here, that's where they use the ID field. Okay. See, this is probably going to need a little more space, eh? Yeah, let's do this. Make it a little wider. There we go. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to need is a button. So put in our button. We hit save. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to put this over here. So what we can do is we can say class equals and column SM. Now we can do offset 2 because all the others were 2. Now the other classes we can use are button and let's do button success. And what that'll do is it's going to round the corners and make it a little green. There we go. So now it looks a little bit better. And when we're done, we're going to go to this page called Save Registration. Okay, so if we type this in right now, if I say test, 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 first off, we see a few things right away that are not ideal. Our password fields should not show us the password. So we need to update the type for that field. We had this one set as email. So the HTML will force us to put in a valid email here. But then our obvious passwords don't have much validation built into them at all. So let's do a couple things here. First, let's make sure that we can't see the person's password. So if we go in here, on our input fields, in here we can say type equals, we say password. Let's hit save. Now if I refresh, see how now my passwords are obscured? Test, test. Okay, so that's better. Now that's taking us to our save registration page. But what if I typed in test and over here I wrote in Frank, right? You can see there are a different number of characters. This still takes me to my registration page, my save registration page. And that's not ideal. The reason is you want to help your users as early as possible in the process. You don't want them to hit save, go all the way to try to put this in the database to have the server side reject the registration and then push the person back to this field where they got to type things in again. It's much better if, much like here, if we look at, if I just typed in AB and I try to hit save, see how it tells me right away? I don't have to leave the screen. I haven't lost all the data that I've already typed in. And we can do the same thing here with our passwords. So in the last video, we talked about building this app.js file. So let's expand on that. And we can build a little screen here, say check that the passwords are the same. So I'm going to create something called button register. Okay. So similar to the last one, on click, okay. So we say if and this is where the password ID field comes into play, right? So on this registration page, we said in here ID equals password. That's what this is. Okay, so if password dot val does not equal confirm. Okay, so if these things are not equal, so that is this password and this confirm ID, which here's password, here's confirm. Right? If they're not the same, then what do we want it to do? Well, we want to update. Oops, forgot a hashtag here. Message. So again, on our registration page at the top here, see how we had this div and we called it message. So now to our JavaScript, we can actually update this message. So here we're going to say the HTML is now going to say passwords do not match. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is, because we want to change the color of our so what we're going to do is we're going to remove the class from our message, that div, and then we're going to update it one more time, and this time we're going to add a class. There we go. So we're going to add class, and in here we can put in our Bootstrap CSS file. So we're going to say alert and alert.danger. And then we return false. This will prevent the script from going to the next step. Okay. If all that's fine, okay. Otherwise, we can just say, well, return true. So now all we have to do is use this button register in our registration page, oops, wrong spot here. So we'll go to our button. So here you can see we have all kinds of classes already defined. Well, we're just going to add in one more, which is button register. Hit save. So now if I reload this page, one, two, three, and here we can say 4, 5, 6. If I hit save, oh, still went through. Let's see what's going on here. BTN register. That should be good. Oh, looks like, aha, I had an error in my apps.js file. Okay, what's going on here? Looks like something with this. But what? Okay, I noticed what was wrong. I'm missing a bracket right here. Don't know how I missed that. That looks better. So let's hit save, Control S, and when I go back, let's reload our page. Put in passwords that clearly don't match, and now we can see it says passwords do not match. So what it's doing is now we've got our message has been updated to red, and if I make them the same, test 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I hit save, now it's going to go to our save registration page, which is fine. We haven't built that page yet, but we can do that real quick. So let's build that. So new PHP file, save registration.php. Okay, so here we go. Say saving user registration. And in here, we can basically jump right to the PHP. We're not going to be doing a lot of presentation here. So PHP, and here after client side, so you might look at it and say, well, we're already making sure that this is an email address, and we're already making sure that the passwords match. So what's the point of having any validation beyond this? And we can also set up a script to make sure that these are tough passwords. But the thing is, when someone goes to the next step, okay, so if I type in password, when I come to here, I'm still calling a PHP page and sending information in. And there's lots and lots of products out there that can spoof, the post array and make it think that we're registering users. So we need to do some validation on this side as well, or else we could get some bad data. So first, let's create some variables to store all of our email and password information. Okay, so now we've got it stored, and we're also going to create a little variable called OK. We'll set it to be true. So So we can do a little bit of validation, and if any of our validation fails, we'll turn this to be false. So for example, if someone tried to send something in and the email was empty, then we could say email can not be empty. And then we could say OK equals false. And we can check if our passwords are big enough. So I can use a function called string length on the password and say, is that less than 8? So if it's less than 8, I can echo and say and we can also check that the passwords are indeed the same. So I can say if password does not equal confirm, okay, so we just tested for some simple things. There's certainly a lot of other things that you could test for, but we just did some rudimentary items there. And then what we're going to do is, if it's still okay, if our OK variable is still true, so we're going to say if it's okay, then we'll save it to the database. So here's going to be the same process we've used in all the other videos. Connect to the database, create your SQL, prepare the SQL, bind the parameters, execute, close the connection, redirect. So I'm not going to write down all of the comments this time. I'm just going to type out the code. So if this seems a little odd to you, you're not familiar with this this type of syntax, then watch some of the earlier videos where I go into this in detail. And again, at the start of this video, I talked about going and setting up our users table. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do, now this is the part that's, well, you know what, we'll come back to hashing the passwords. So let's just do as we're used to. So the next step here is command equals take your connection, prepare the SQL, and then bind the parameters. And we said this could be up to 255. Execute our command. And we're going to disconnect from the database. Okay. So if we do this, let's take a look at what happens. Save registration was not found. Did I spell that incorrectly? Hang on 1 sec. I think I put it in the wrong directory. This happened to me in the other video. I did it. Alright. Alright, so let's cut it out of here. Paste it in here. Okay, let's try that again. So refresh, continue. Okay, so here, because I put in a password of only 4 characters, it says password must be greater than or equal to 8 characters. All right, so you can go back. This one's 8 characters. And we get here, use of undefined constant password. All right, so let's see. Assumed it was password on line 39. So line 39, aha. So forgot my $sign here. Save to refresh that. Okay, now it looks like it worked. If we go to our database table here, if I say select star, I select all the columns, and what I can see is, I can see there's the email and then the person's password. Now, although this is effective and we'd be able to test if their password matches when they go to log in the future, the problem here is if anyone were to ever access our database, they can see the password. And if you can see it here and you have the person's email, you could probably try logging into a lot of other services because a lot of people use the same password everywhere they go. So it's a huge security risk to store someone's password unencrypted. So what we have is this, this hash feature that we can do. And basically what we're going to do is right before we bind the parameters here, we're going to change our password. We're going to do something called hash password. And what this will do is it will store an encrypted version of the password. And when we log in, we basically just have to hash our login and see if the hashed version matches this hashed version. So I'm going to say password equals password hash, and we pass in the password, and we're just going to use the default for today. Hit save. So now let's go back and create another user. Okay, so this can be test. I hit save. Looks like it went through. And now we can see this password is stored. So I typed in the exact same password both times, but this time we can see it's encrypted. So if anyone were to hack into our database, they can't reverse engineer from here to there too easily. They would have to know whatever the encryption pieces are to do that. So that helps us out quite a bit. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end it for this video. In subsequent videos, we're going to look at how do we protect if 2 people try to register with the same email address, and we'll look at actually logging into the system.